So we lost Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, but we got Payton versus Prochazka. UFC 303 full card breakdown coming up. Stay right here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm your boy DS, and I'm here with the one, the only Dino Bam Bam.
DS, what up, brother?
What up, what up? UFC 303 is finally here, my friend. We're here to break it down. We've got the full fight card predictions. Now, of course, the new main event, as we all know, is Pereira versus Prochazka. Two absolute big ups to these two legends, for two absolute warriors for doing this, for taking on this fight, especially Alex Pereira to defend his belt on short notice. Again, I just love what he's done for the sport. He's potentially the biggest star in the sport right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, look, his star power is rising. There's a couple of guys on this card with like rising star power. Obviously, as you mentioned, it was supposed to be a McGregor card, so that makes sense. But yeah, Alex Pereira, I've been on record saying it, man. He's one of the top 3 biggest draws in the UFC right now, deservedly so. What he's done has been pretty damn impressive coming into this sport as pretty much a newbie and climbing up the ranks to be a 2-division world champion in the UFC. Is no fucking joke.
With multiple title defenses under his belt now too. I mean,
well, technically one, right?
Well, one, sorry, but fought for multiple titles. Well, I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, you're fucking skipping ahead. Your ideology. Look, I know who you're going with. You know who I'm going with. We're gonna get there. Get there. But before we do all that, because I really do want to break this card down, but I'm gonna take. First of all, Dino, have you noticed that we're in hell? You see this little background?
Yeah, brother.
Not my actual background, which sucks right now because we're fixing it. So please excuse my mess.
I just want to say I absolutely despise the camera angle that you're working with right now.
Me too. I'm sorry. It's temporary. We're gonna fix it. But the background on this whole thing, this fucking red shit that's going on, we're in hell. And that's what this fight is going to be. It's going to be hell. It's going to be wild. And it's also hot as shit in my basement. So
you're talking about Macy Chiasson versus Mayra Bueno Silva, right?
Different kind of hell. But yeah, pretty much. Anyways, guys, if you're enjoying or you have enjoyed our previous content, please do us a favor. Hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean a ton to us. You can also do like the thing at the bottom says right there. Follow us on IG and TikTok at the107MMA. Tons of cool pictures with us and fighters, memes that are popping off for millions of views here and there. And then Dino, a little throwback for, the original fans of this channel. We used to have a saying that we don't say very much anymore. It's right there. Jiri follows us on IG. You should too. So go check us the fuck out.
This is a good time as any to mention that again, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, without further ado, let's jump right into this card. If you got nothing else for us right now, Dino Bam Bam?
Brother, I got nothing else. Let's get into it. This is a hefty-ass card.
It is a hefty-ass card. Let's try to blaze through it while still giving some good breakdowns. First fight of the night, veteran Ricky Simón taking on Vinicius Oliveira. I'll let you take this one first.
Thank you, brother. All right, let's start with, first and foremost, great fight to start a card. We haven't seen a fight of like this caliber to start a pay-per-view card out in a long time, since UFC 300, but before that, like literally years. Anyways, to my boys, let's start with Ricky Simón, the veteran Ricky Simón. Dino, he's 20-5 in his UFC or in his MMA career, 8-4 in the UFC. Tough spot to be in for Ricky Simón here. 2 losses in a row. The first was in that main event against Song Yadong where he got knocked out, and the other one was against a very underrated Mario Batista where he lost a decision. Obviously, Ricky Simón's a very well-rounded fighter, constantly pushing pace, using his speed and his cardio to really tire his opponents out. He's got some power, Dino. He's got some good submission skills, and he's been at the top of this division for a really long time. I think the reason that Ricky Simón never made it to the tip top of this division, like the top 5 title picture kind of thing, is because he's so damn hittable, man. He's so wild on the feet that he leaves himself open and susceptible to being hit. He's aggressive. And then we got Vinicius Oliveira. Speaking of aggressive, this is another dude that's really fucking aggressive. Newcomer to the scene, back in the octagon for the second time now. Technically the third if you count Dancing with the Stars, Dana White's Contender Series. Nice showing last time out against Bernardo Sopaj, the Albanian fighter that was also making his debut on short notice. Nasty flying knee knockout, Dino, but his opponent got really, really tired. You could tell that the short notice and the weight cut was getting to him. As far as a breakdown for him, he's a one-shot striker, man. He throws everything with bad intentions. He's ready to end the night. And that's basically what he is. We were speaking about star power. This is another guy that the UFC thinks has some star power. So they're trying to push Vinicius Oliveira. I want to pick the new shiny toy, Dino. I want to pick Vinicius Oliveira, and he very well may win this fight via knockout, but I can't pick against Ricky Simón, man. The wrestling that I saw Sopaj do to Oliveira really worries me for him against a wrestler the level of Ricky Simón. I don't think Sopaj is that level. Give me Ricky Simón by decision.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, man. I have exactly that written down too. The fact that Sopaj was able to wrestle him to some extent. Vinicius Salvador, I do expect him to have the power advantage on the feet, and he certainly is live for a knockout. He always is, but I mean, who has he really fought? Like, what level of competition has he really fought coming from UAE Warriors? It's an okay organization, but yeah, I just, compare the level of competition that he's fought, compare the level of competition that Ricky Simón has fought. Look at the record. I mean, 20-5 for Ricky Simón to be in the UFC at the top of this division, like you said, for as long as he's been. And sure, he lost to Mario Batista, but he still looked pretty good in that fight for a good parts of it. But that was more a step up. I think Mario Batista really took a step up more than it was like Ricky Simón had a bad performance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Batista's a hell of a fighter, man.
He's a hell of a fighter. He's extremely well-rounded. He's got great cardio. I expect him to be able to string together some takedowns and some good chain wrestling in this one. He's not ever a guy that does a ton of damage, quite frankly, but he's so well-rounded. And, we're kind of in the era of people getting checked and fraud checked, right, as we've seen a lot recently. So I agree with you, man. I'm going to go with Ricky Simón by decision as well. Vinicius Oliveira, a lot of power. We've seen these guys, right? We've seen these guys. Maybe he's going to be a little bit different. Maybe he's the one to stick around and really move up the rankings. I just think it's too much too soon,
Yeah, and we agree on the first fight. That's always a good sign for things to come. So let's get it.
Is it though?
I don't know. I just like saying that.
Yeah. All right, next fight of the night. We've got newcomer, and he's coming from the Asian tournament. I'm talking about Rei Tsuruya. He is from Japan. He's got a cute little haircut. I will say that. He's taking on Carlos Hernandez. This is interesting, man. This is interesting matchmaking to me. They must really, really believe in this guy. And obviously with the signing of that big-time Japanese prospect, his name is escaping me right now. What is it?
The guy from Ryzen. I'm sorry. His name is right now.
Fuck, whatever. I mean, I think there's a reason they're putting this guy. I think this was the last fight added to the card too, for what it's worth. I think the UFC is making a clear, concerted effort to get some of these Japanese fighters, up on these. There's a big pay-per-view card, right? There's a reason they're putting them there. So, this is an interesting one, man. Carlos Hernandez, very well-rounded game. Again, this could be one of those moments where, is this a fraud check for somebody like Rei Tsuruya? He is now coming in and he's fighting a very legitimate UFC fighter who's been in the UFC for a minute, who's taken on some good opponents. I don't really believe in the tournament too much. The road to the UFC tournament. Yeah, it's just not something that, I don't really think it's a high quality tournament. I'm sorry. Hernandez, 2 inches taller. His only losses in the UFC have come to Tatsuro Taira, another high level Japanese prospect, but we know that Tatsuro Taira is legit. There was a lot more film on him, and I just felt a lot more comfortable with Taira as a prospect coming into the UFC. I haven't seen enough from Rei Tsuruya to really be able to feel that strongly about him like I did with Taira. He also lost to Alan Nascimento. Alan Nascimento, very dangerous fighter on the ground. It is what it is, right? Man, the one thing that does worry me is what I've noticed is that Carlos Hernandez does not always do the best against southpaws, right? Rei Tsuruya is a southpaw striker. He's a dangerous striker, man. So that's like the one thing that's giving me a little bit of pause. But again, I'm going to go with the veteran, man. I'm going to go with the veteran. I just, I don't trust it. I know he's a minus 400 favorite. I know, so maybe I'm nuts for picking Carlos Hernandez here. Carlos Hernandez is not like the most dangerous fighter. I think the most likely outcome here, and the thing that most people are probably picking, is going to be Rei Tsuruya by knockout because of his striking advantage. I don't want to do it, man. I'm going to go Carlos Hernandez by decision. I'm picking a big-time underdog here, and obviously it's a risky pick. I'm not saying go throw all your money on this, but that's just how I'm feeling right now.
All right, Dino, I love it, man, because I'm doing the same goddamn thing. I'm taking Carlos Hernandez as well. I mean, we got to think about this for a second, right? You see these guys coming off the road to the UFC tournament, and I mentioned this, I think, like last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I don't love him, man. I mean, besides, what's the gentleman? The Japanese wrestler guy who is an absolute beast. And again, another Japanese guy whose name I'm forgetting. But absolute monster. Like the rest of these guys just seem mid, man. They seem mid-level. And yes, your grappling looked phenomenal there. It really does pop on tape. But it's like, who are you wrestling? You're wrestling guys from China. You're wrestling guys from Korea. China. You're wrestling guys from Korea and Japan, and it's just like those countries aren't known for their wrestling. Then you want to come to the UFC and you want to try to show your wrestling acumen. I mean, he's a junior Olympian in Japan, so obviously he's got to be a good wrestler, but it's like you haven't fought American wrestlers yet. And I truly do think, you know, Russia, and obviously Dagestan's a part of Russia, but just Russian wrestling in general, American wrestling in general, it's a different game, man. It's a totally different game. So I don't see him being super, super successful with it. I don't know where the hell plus 310 or minus 400 comes from. I don't get that at all.
I'm going to sprinkle on that right now, dude. Like now, sprinkle Carlos Hernandez by decision. You probably get like plus 500 odds on that.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. I get that Rei Tsuruya can win this fight. I see his road to victory or road to the UFC, if you will, but I'm just not buying it, man. I like Hernandez by decision. And then I do want to mention one more thing. Since you mentioned the 2 losses for Carlos Hernandez, he also lost his professional debut to Gustavo Ballart, who fights in 1. He's 4'10", Dino. And this guy fights at men's strawweight and men's flyweight. He's a little thick fucker, and he's fun as shit to watch. If you haven't seen that guy, go do that.
Yo, are you like actually 4'10"?
That ass 4'10". He's awesome.
Wait, who is that?
Gustavo Ballart. He's Carlos Hernandez's first pro fight, and Hernandez lost to him. That guy is fun as shit to watch. You should watch some film on him.
Okay, I will. Hey, it almost sounds like Paul Blart.
Right.
Oh, God.
Gustavo.
Holy shit, dude. 4'11" with a 56-inch reach is crazy.
He's an Olympian. You see that? His little his picture there?
Did he do it with a broken freaking neck, though?
No, he's not Kurt Angle. Come on now. By the way, shout out Kurt Angle. I remember Captain Eric telling us a story that we're not going to get into here because it's not like too appropriate. But just Kurt Angle after winning the gold medal at the 96 games, and they like went out in Atlanta, and apparently it was a fun time. So
with a broken freaking neck too, brother.
Broken freaking neck.
All right, moving on. Next fight of the night, we've got 2 fucking old European fellas. We've got Andre Arlovski, the absolute veteran, the legend of the sport. Nobody has more UFC fights than this fucking guy. 34-23 is an absolute insane record. He's taking on renowned, just fat piece of shit, Martin Buday.
Yeah, hey man, you couldn't have said it better. Look, first and foremost, shout out Andre the Pitbull Arlovski.
That's fucked up. I don't mean it like, you know, maliciously. That's sick though.
Yeah, that's kind of what he's doing.
That's fucked up. I don't think Martin Buday will ever see this, and I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean it like that, but like, come on, bro, you fucking.
All right, Dino, anyway, breakdown time. First of all, the glove signed by the former champion Andre the Pitbull Arlovski, absolute legend. To Dino and Dino, good luck. So he's wishing us luck. I'm gonna wish him some luck too. I hope he wins this fight. He promised us an interview. I just never really, we never went after it. But anyways, the Pitbull, man, what's there to say about Andre Arlovski, right? Like you said it. We've seen this guy a billion times in the UFC. He was a champion like 48 years ago. He's a fucking legend of this sport. He goes back to like Pride days, to Crow Cop, and like he's a throwback to those guys. And he's still here. He's like the last one doing it, Dino. Fedor doesn't fight anymore. Andre Arlovski does. I hate that when we have to do these kind of fight breakdowns, I always need to say this, but I just feel like I have to. Prime for prime, Andre Arlovski absolutely dismantles Martin Buday. So not even close. Anyways, he used to be a big power striker. Now he's more of like a reserved striker. Amazing to see what he's doing at whatever his age is. Then we have Martin Buday. You called him a well-known, renowned piece of shit or whatever you called him. And it's funny because
you have to repeat it.
Because look, every time we watch the UFC and this guy's fighting, what are they talking about? DC's enamored by the fact that this guy was like 480 pounds. He was like a fucking World of Warcraft video game nerd. And like, then he just found MMA and it changed his life. Anyways, I was a little bit high on Martin Buday for a while, just due to the fact that obviously you say it all the time, but the heavyweight division's terrible. And it looked like maybe this guy's not god-awful. And being not god-awful at heavyweight means you're a top 10 guy, essentially, right? But damn, that last fight was brutal, Dino. He fought Shamil Gaziev, who was fraud-checked by Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and he looked awful. He didn't throw anything. He didn't try to strike. He didn't try to grapple. He just walked around and took some shots until he wanted to get out of there in the second round. MMA Guru made a video yesterday about the payoffs with the Saudis and the Dubai and the UFC and all that. Maybe that had something to do with it. But anyways, I go back to that fight, Dino, and he did absolutely nothing against Gaziev. If the same Martin Buday shows up that showed up against Shamil Gaziev, he's losing this fight. I just can't imagine that same version of him shows up. I'm rooting for Andre Arlovski. I just can't pick him in this one. I'm going Martin Buday by decision. I think he just uses that heavy, like clinch game against the cage and finds himself a decision.
Yeah, man. This fight is the breakdown is very simple of this fight, right? It's, Andre Arlovski at this point of his career, slow striker, right? Methodical. He's still a veteran. He's got those veteran tricks up his sleeve. He's going to land some shots. They don't have a ton of power in them. He's not going to knock anybody out, man. He's not going to wrestle. He just wants to keep it on the feet, try not to get hit as much. Martin Buday just needs to go for it. Martin Buday really just needs to go for it and not fight like a complete fucking moron. And he should win this fight. Fuck, man. Even 2-3 fights ago, maybe I would still pick Arlovski. And this is a really kind of a 50-50 one for me, damn near. But, at some point it's over, right? At some point you just don't have it. Martin Buday, I don't think he's that bad, right? He's got a little bit of power. He's got fight in him. I will say that, right? He's not going to just, even though he's just a sloppy dude, he's not going to sit there and just he's going to try to move forward. He's going to try to do some shit. Even versus Gaziev, man, he got his ass beat, but, he was still kind of trying, right? He was going for it until he couldn't. So
I don't think so, man. I really don't think. I think that was like the worst performance you could put out there.
Oh, it was by far his worst performance. But before he ended up against the cage, just eating big ass shots, I felt like maybe he had a chance, and then quickly he didn't. But yeah. I don't know. I think at this point, I think Gaziev beat the fuck out of Andre Arlovski, even though he got fraud checked.
Yeah, probably right.
So 45 years old though, man. Oh, this is so hard for me, dude. Like, is Arlovski going to have the speed advantage? Is he going to have the cardio advantage? It's possible.
I think cardio, yes. I don't know about speed.
Oof, yeah, I don't know, man. Fucking, this is so tough. Like, it's literally 50-50 for me. I could tell you one thing right now, and right now I'm leaning Martin Buday by decision. I could literally, in the next 10 minutes, feel it's Andre Arlovski by decision. At the end of the day, this fight's going to decision, in my opinion.
All right, I feel that. And yeah, shit. By the way, see you at the top. Poor Michael Chandler, Poor Michael.
Is it poor Michael Chandler? I'm sick of him, to be honest with you. But anyway, next fight of the night, first women's fight of the card. We've got the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson-Gomez. She is taking on Gillian Robertson. All right. I love the karate hottie, bro. She's a my girl. I've been a supporter. I've been a fan. But, man, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 straight losses to Marina Rodriguez, who's not what she was in the past. Let's be real. That was an aging Marina Rodriguez. Luana Pinheiro, who, split decision. Say what you will, Luana Pinheiro, I don't think she's that great. Amanda Lemos, fine. Everybody loses to her. Lost to Marina Rodriguez one more time, too. Her last win was to Angela Hill in a split decision. That fight could have gone either way. She's fought really good competition. In the women's division, she is a fixture, right? She's somebody who has been one of the longest tenured female fighters in the sport. All due respect to her, but to me, she's got good striking, right? No power really to speak of. 18-12 at this point. Hasn't really looked like she's going to beat anybody in a hot-ass minute. She's now, 36, 37 years old. She's just taking on the younger, hungrier fighter, man, Gillian Robertson, and somebody who, on top of that, is not a great matchup for her. Gillian Robertson is a really good wrestler. She's got great submissions. Her striking has improved to some extent, right? I don't think Gillian Robertson is going to stand on the feet and strike with Michelle Waterson-Gomez. I think we do see this fight end up on the ground at some point, and I think Gillian Robertson probably gets the submission in this one. I'm going to say in round 2.
All right. Really quickly, going back to the last fight, word on the street, it might be Andre Arlovski's final fight. So if it is his retirement, farewell, my boy. Anyways, in this fight, the karate hottie, not, like you said, she's on this little losing streak here. 4 fights in a row, could be 5 with the Angela Hill fight. She's lost to lately, she's lost to the ladies that we expect her to lose to, right? It just is what it is. She's clearly not the fighter that she used to be. You mentioned there's a lack of power, which there absolutely is, and there always kind of has been, and it's gone down even more. She's still dangerous with the kicks. If she lands that head kick, she could put your lights out. She's going to have to keep this fight on the feet if she wants any chance at winning it. I think if we do get a 3-round fight where it stays on the feet, she will win it. Unfortunately, here comes her problem in Gillian Robertson, a relentless younger grappler who's a beast with the jiu-jitsu. She's got really good wrestling. She's not one of those jiu-jitsu nerds who, just kind of butt scoots and tries to pull guard. Like, she's going to go get takedowns. She's tough. She's relentless. I think she's going to get this done. It's striker versus grappler. You got to pick the grappler, especially when she's younger and stronger. So, yeah, Gillian Robertson, she's going to find the submission. I also think it's going to be in round 2. Probably the worst fight of the card here. And not knocking women's MMA, but probably the worst fight on the card.
No, and at her prime, I think Michelle Waterson-Gomez wins this fight again.
There personally. It is, probably. Yeah, probably.
So, anyway, moving on. Next fight of the night, we're changing gears. We're at men's bantamweight. We've got Payton Talbott taking on Yanis Ghemmouri. Bam Bam, give me your thoughts on the prospect and his opponent.
What's the first thing that sticks out to you here, Dino?
I mean, the minus 1,600 odds.
What the fuck are we doing, right? Okay, yeah. Look, I like Payton Talbott a lot. I think everyone
those are egregious, bro. Egregious.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, I like him. I know you like him. We watched his last fight, or 2 fights ago. We watched them together with Eric and Drew and GK, and shout out all those guys. But the dude is fun, man. He's flashy. He's got a look to him. He's got a little bit of Sean O'Malley. He's got a little bit of like the Mikey Musumeci, Chase Hooper kind of like weirdo fucking vibes, and it works for him. The kid's young. He's dynamic. He's fucking awesome. But I just don't understand these odds. If you're betting money line on Payton Talbott, like, I don't understand what the fuck you're doing with your money. But anyways, last time out, a nasty KO versus Cameron Simon, who's a legitimately highly touted prospect. The kid uses his range really damn well. He's awkward. He's long-bodied. He has some serious-ass power. We just haven't seen him tested to that level yet. Not that I think Yanis Ghemmouri is the guy to do that at all. It's just minus 1,600. Like, I'm going to need some proof for those kind of odds. Then we look at his opponent, Yanis Ghemmouri. Last time out was his debut. He was knocked out with a body kick versus William Jaguar Gomez. But before that, he was on a 9-fight winning streak, Dino. Yes, it was mostly against cans, but still, a 9-fight winning streak is a 9-fight winning streak. He's solidly well-rounded, some decent wrestling, even though he wasn't able to show that against William Gomez. And Ghemmouri is probably a guy that's not UFC level. If he is UFC level, he's bottom of the barrel. So, of course, I'm picking Payton Talbott in this one. He's going to win the fight by knockout. But again, the fucking odds are egregious. Round 2, because Payton Talbott seems like a patient striker.
Yeah. Again, the odds are fucking insane, though, man. I mean, it's just outrageous. Minus 1,600. I mean, I get it. He's really good. Nobody's done to Cameron Simon what he did, really. But fuck, man, minus 1,600 is pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say though? It's a layup fight. They want to build this kid up. They want him to be a star. They want to capitalize on him. They want to give him a few gimmies. He's getting the Bo Nickel treatment essentially at this point, which is interesting. Like you show yourself, and then they're like, okay, slow down a little bit, give him a couple gimme fights, and that's kind of what's happening here, right? Yanis Ghemmouri, I don't believe in him. Payton Talbott's going to be better everywhere. He can win this fight any which way he wants. It's going to end in the first round.
All right.
Next fight. Moving on. We've got Charles Jourdain, certified my boy. He's taking on Gene Silva. I'm going with Charles Jourdain here, man. I'm going with Charles Jourdain here, and I feel pretty comfortable. For me, Gene Silva really has one thing that Charles Jourdain doesn't have necessarily, or that he's better at than Charles Jourdain, and that's the pure power, right? He's flashy, he's kind of like cocky, and he's an interesting guy. I think he's got a couple screws loose maybe. He's got a ton of power, but I do expect Charles Jourdain to have the speed advantage. Charles Jourdain, I also really like how he sets up his striking in general. He's just a more technical striker overall. I think he's going to have a lot of success in the striking, man. My only thing with Charles Jourdain is like sometimes in these, if it's close or, whatever, he just seems to not like step on the gas enough, or he just ends up a little bit on the wrong end of these kind of fights, right? I just don't think Gene Silva has the technical know-how to really challenge Charles Jourdain in this one. Charles Jourdain also is better on the ground. He does have he has a guillotine choke. He's got a couple guillotine chokes. He did lose by Darce to Julian Erosa, but he's pretty good on the ground, man. He's very well-rounded. He continues to improve. I like Charles Jourdain in this one by decision. I could see a submission, like a late submission, let's say maybe in like a late second round or early third round kind of submission. Once Gene Silva is a little bit tired, Charles Jourdain is definitely going to have the better cardio too. I'm very comfortable with this one. I love the odds on this one. This is one of the better parlay pieces, or even if you want to do it as a single bet, Charles Jourdain, let's say over a round and a half, I think is a really good bet in this one, or Charles Jourdain by decision or submission, I think is really good. I don't see him getting a knockout, but I don't think he's going to get finished in this one. I just think he's the better fighter.
All right. And I just want to say I love Charles Jourdain, obviously. You say he's your boy. He's definitely my boy as well. So shout out Charles Jourdain and our boy, certified. Look, Dino, weirdly enough, like Charles Jourdain, if you follow him on Instagram, he's a fun follow. The dude is absolutely fucking nuts. And then you get Gene Silva in here. Like, they really brought out all the fucking weirdos on this card, and I love it. Gene Silva's nuts, man. He's an absolute lunatic. The guy like walks in like slow motion, and he like stares at the camera, and he stunts and shit, and then he just throws one massive shot after the other, but it's not like combos. He throws just one big shot at a time, and he decapitates people. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think Charles Jourdain just technically is a lot better. And remember, I picked him to lose last time out to Sean Woodson, when a lot of people weren't. But Sean Woodson presents problems that Gene Silva doesn't with the height, right? Gene Silva going to be the shorter fighter in this one. I think Charles Jourdain's going to be able to pick at him from range, Dino, whereas Silva's going to be throwing massive shots, and you're not going to catch Charles Jourdain with one big shot being thrown at a time. He's too technical. He's too dynamic. He's got great footwork. So I don't see that happening. I think this fight's going to be fun as hell. I think it's going to get scrappy. I think it's going to get sloppy at times. But again, I'm picking Charles Jourdain, and I feel like this could be a sneaky fight for like fight of the night. But I'll tell you this, I'm also picking Charles Jourdain by the only method you think he can't win by. I'm picking him by knockout. I think he's just going to tire Gene Silva out, Dino. And I think eventually in that like mid-late third round, he's going to break him down and get a TKO like up against the cage or something.
Yep. Hey, man, I don't hate it as long as he wins is my thoughts on it. So
there we go.
Moving on, next fight of the night. And you said fight of the night. I think this next fight has very much fight of the night potential. I'm talking about Cub Swanson versus Andre Fili, two absolute veterans of the sport. This is going to be an absolute banger. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, two more my boys right here facing off. So anyways, Cub Swanson, earlier on in the card, I mentioned Andre Arlovski potentially retiring. Word on the streets, the streets are talking. Apparently Cub Swanson might retire after this one as well. So I wrote this little joke in here. You ready for this? This might be Swanson's swan song. You feel me?
Damn.
All I'm saying. Anyways, last time out, he fought a phenomenal win as an underdog versus Hakeem Dawodu. I think nobody was expecting him to win that fight. Absolute amazing performance from Cub Swanson. Besides that last fight, Dino, maybe in the last 6 or 7 years, Swanson has won the fights we've expected him to win, and he's lost the fights we've expected him to lose, right? The losses have come to Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano, Shane Burgos, Giga Chikadze, and Jonathan Martinez. Every one of those fights, without watching film, without thinking about it, you're picking those guys to beat Cub Swanson. Yeah. And then in the fights he's won, it's the same thing. It's Artem Lobov, Kron Gracie, Daniel Pineda, and Darren Elkins. those fights, if I tell you those, you're expecting Cub Swanson to win those fights. So he's done a good job. But again, the Hakeem Dawodu fight, that was awesome, man. So even at 39 years old, he's still nasty on the feet. He's slowing down a little bit. He throws hard as hell when he does throw. He goes in bursts now as opposed to the reckless pace that he used to go at. And people forget Cub Swanson, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, really nasty on the ground. Andre Fili, a guy who we've talked about a bunch on this. Bless you, brother. Andre Fili, we've talked about him a bunch on this channel. Just a guy that was thrown to the wolves a little bit too early, in my opinion. He's a finisher in every sense of the word. You're either going to finish him or he's going to finish you. Generally speaking, he has some decision losses, but it's not very common for him because he fights aggressive as hell. He throws himself in the fire. He's willing to take 2 or 3 shots to land the one that he wants to land. I expect Fili in this one to be a little bit bigger. I expect him to be the faster striker in this one. I don't think he's going to finish Cub Swanson. I just don't see Cub Swanson getting knocked out or subbed in this one. That's proven to be a tough thing, but I think we get another banger of a fight. As you said, a potential fight of the night, and I'm going Andre Fili by decision.
Yeah, this is a true pick'em to me, man. It really is. Cub Swanson, tough as hell. That last performance, like you said, man, super, super inspiring. I was on my feet watching that one. What an absolute dog Cub Swanson is. Cub Swanson is synonymous with the UFC, right? He is one of the true legends of the sport. Never didn't stay at the tippy top for too long, but man, he's been around for a goddamn long time. It's two guys who are kind of similar in a way, right? Like 29-13, 23-11. These are two absolute warriors. They're going to give you everything that they have every time they go out, but they're going to win some, they're going to lose some, right? I genuinely expect this to be the fight of the night. Andre Fili, like you said, man, he's the longer fighter. He's the younger fighter. Cub Swanson is damn near 41 years old at this point at featherweight. That's just tough to do, man. Andre Fili, however, is very hittable, right? Andre Fili is the more well-rounded fighter at this stage of his career. Cub Swanson is, the more diverse striker, right? So we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be a fun-ass fight. I am also going to pick Andre Fili by decision. I don't expect a finish in this one, but I do expect it to be an absolute war the entire time, and I really, really do expect it to be the fight of the night. If it is Cub Swanson's last fight, like you said, the streets talking, man, he's walking off into the sunset, an absolute legend, has given all that he can to the sport, and hats off to him, man.
Yeah, man. People forget Cub Swanson's from the WEC days, man. So absolute legend, stud, amazing. I've always liked Cub Swanson. I feel like nobody hates Cub Swanson, right?
How could you?
And one more thing. We've agreed on every fight so far. I know that that's coming to an end here soon, but
have we really?
But we've agreed on everything. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just saying.
All right. I'm actually curious what you think about this next fight. And the next fight that I'm talking about is Joe Body Biggs Pyfer. He is taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. It's Barriault. You missed an A there, you son of a bitch. That's fine.
No, okay.
Well, he's French. Be nice to him. Or is he Canadian?
He's French-Canadian.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hold on really quickly. Speaking of French Canadians, what did Edmonton just do in the Stanley Cup? A bunch of losers. Canada hasn't won That was cool. But they haven't won a Stanley Cup in Canada since 93. Like, come on, bro. That's ugh. Yuck. That's your
shit. For sure. But yeah, man, Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault. This is tough, man. Minus 265 is kind of crazy to me. I really think this should be a pick'em too. It's like the physicality of Joe Pyfer, right? He's got a shit ton of power. He's got some of the most pure knockout power in the division, but sometimes he comes out a little bit flat, man. And then you're fighting the Marab from a striking standpoint in terms of cardio, an absolute cardio machine in Marc-Andre Barriault, who, had a competitive fight with Chris Curtis. That was his last fight, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, had a competitive fight versus Chris Curtis, ended up losing that in a split decision. But man, he looked pretty good in that one. I'm having a really, really tough time with this one, right? Because my instincts say Joe Pyfer is going to knock him out. He just has more power. Marc-Andre Barriault, the more technical striker, he's going to string together some funner strikes and things like that. But and then Joe Pyfer did not look great, man. He got pretty much manhandled by Jack Hermanson in the last fight. Not a lot of people expected that. So you have one guy who fought a highly touted guy in the division and took him to a split decision that people didn't expect. You had Joe Pyfer, who took on a decently touted guy in the division who most people expected him to beat, and he lost. So I'm kind of shocked that the odds are where they are. Minus 265 for Joe Pyfer. I don't know, man. I want to say Joe Pyfer by knockout, but it's tough, man. It's very tough. Like, I could absolutely see him getting peppered by Marc-Andre Barriault. And then if he does not knock him out in the first round, or maybe even like the early second round, Marc-Andre Barriault is going to win this fight by decision, or even potentially by knockout in the late rounds. So, I'm going to say Joe Pyfer by knockout, man. I don't feel great about it. And this is another one where I very well might switch my pick. We'll see, man. We'll see. He needs to use some takedowns and probably try to get this guy down and get some damage on him on the ground, and maybe try to lessen some of that cardio, because, man, if he doesn't knock him out in the first round and a half, I think he's going to have a tough time with Marc-Andre Barriault.
All right, man. So I'll give you my little breakdown here, Dino. A lot of people, when it comes to Joe Pyfer, they're screaming fraud check, right? And yes, he didn't look phenomenal in that fight versus Jack Hermanson. But shit, that's Jack Hermanson. People forget how legit that guy is because he's a little older now and he's not as active as he used to be. But shout out the Joker. He's an absolute beast. He did have some moments in that fight, Dino, where he looked good. He looked physically as strong as he ever looked. And with Joe Pyfer, you know he has that serious one-shot knockout power that you were talking about. So there's always a chance with Joe Pyfer, right? In the grappling, that's something you have to worry about. The dude's an absolute beast wrestler, good jiu-jitsu. They do a ton of grappling out there. I'm just not ready to throw Joe Pyfer away. I'm not ready to, throw him in the garbage and call him a fraud. Like, he lost to a perennial top 10 guy, a guy that's in the top 10 and has been for years now, in Jack Hermanson, who people forget, he goes to war with some of the top guys. He's out there wrestling with Hamzat every day for years at All Stars out there in Stockholm. I'm just not ready to give up on Joe Pyfer. Then we have Marc-Andre Barriault, obviously a kickboxer. Unfortunately for him, if he had the one-shot power, I think Marc-Andre Barriault would be a serious problem in the division, but he doesn't. Don't get it twisted. I think he's a fun fighter. He's a great striker. He puts on a furious pace. Good, decent cardio. He looks to wear his opponents down. I just don't know that that's going to work in this one, Dino. I have to assume that Joe Pyfer's improved, that he knows, where his holes are now. And that was really weird. But he knows, what the holes in his game are, right? And I think he's fixing them. Like I said, I'm just not ready to throw him away. Also, I think the UFC knows they want to push Joe Pyfer. That's what this card's all about. It's about pushing people. It was supposed to be the Conor McGregor card. Pardon the pun, but notoriously what they do on Conor McGregor cards is they stack it up with guys they think can be the next star. That's why Payton Talbott's here. That's why Lope Dog Vinicius Oliveira's here. It just makes a lot of sense. I think they know that Joe Pyfer is the kind of matchup for Marc-Andre Barriault that is just a brutal matchup. A guy with not really much wrestling and a guy that doesn't have the power to put him away. So the leg kicks might come into play for Barriault. I think that's his route to victory if he wants it. Decision, beating up the body and the leg kicks. But I'm going Joe Pyfer by knockout. I think it comes like midway through the second.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see, man. I don't think it's going to be easy, and he's got to stay focused. But I do expect the same thing. So moving on. Next fight of the night, we've got the one that everyone's been waiting for. We've got Mayra Bueno Silva. She's taking on Macy Chiasson.
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the fight. The one and only Ian Machado Garry. He is taking on Michael Venom Page at 170. What do you think about this one?
Dino, I thought you were actually being serious. The fight everyone's waiting for. This is a fucking banger. And you just go throw that garbage at me? What are we doing here? This is some interesting ass shit. Anyways, by the way, we're still on that little perfect, we're picking the same things. And I feel like this is where it's going to change. I'm just going to say that before I give my breakdown. And I'll tell you why. It's because I don't even know who I'm picking. I picked somebody. It's on here, but I don't know if I trust myself. Anyways, Another one of those fights, Dino, where it's all, it's the thing that you always say. I love that you say this because I get to point it out when I feel that way. And it's just the perfect way to say it. You always say, if someone acts like they know what the fuck's going to happen in this fight, they don't. They're lying. Nobody fucking knows. So I
Correct.
truly do feel that way about this fight. Anyways, Ian Machado, Garry, the Irish Brazilian guy. Love him or hate him, man. He's a pretty good fighter. He's a great striker. He's sharp. He's powerful. He snipes people. And supposedly he has a good ground game. We don't get to see too much of it in the UFC, but apparently it's good. And supposedly, I'm sorry, not supposedly, presumably getting better over at Shoot the Box, right? He's out there working with Charles Oliveira and those guys that Shoot the Box. They're all about their Muay Thai and their grappling. Look, when it comes to the positives in Ian Garry's striking, Dino, I just broke that down. There are things that he does that are phenomenal. The power is great. The sharpness is great, if that's a word. Like he is that sniper. But there's also some holes in his stand-up, right? We've seen him get hit. We've seen him get hit by lesser strikers than himself. And we've seen him wobbly in the UFC as well. And, a lot of times he throws one shot at a time. I don't know that I love that, especially against a striker the level of Michael Venom Page. You can get away with it with some guys that you're better than, or some guys that aren't that great of strikers or don't have that kind of power. But if you throw naked shots against Michael Venom Page, that shit ain't going to work out for you. Anyways, MVP, man, he's another dude where, what is there to say? You watch his highlight reel. Go to YouTube, type in Michael Venom Page, MVP, MMA, whatever. Look at his highlights, and it's ridiculous. Unreal highlight reel, crazy-ass knockouts, dumb one-shot power, flying knees, spinning shit, straight hands down the pipe. Like, he could knock you out in any fashion. He's entertaining as hell. He talks shit. Ian Garry talks shit. This should be fun. Even if the fight turns out to be a 10-second knockout or the most boring fight for 15 minutes, there's no way that you're not going to have a feeling with this fight. It's a feeling-inducing fight. The downfalls with Michael Venom Page, people talk about the grappling, it's a question mark, and then people talk about the fact that he's fought cans. A lot of those guys at Bellator, people refer to them as cans. Well, he came to the UFC and he put on a show against Kevin Holland, man. Toughest fight for me to choose on this card, Dino. Every time I sit here and think about it, I go Ian Garry, and then I go MVP, and then I switch back. I literally did this in my breakdown. I asked Siri. I was like, hey, flip a coin. And I had Ian Garry on heads and Michael Venom Page on tails. She said tails, so I'm going MVP to win this fight. I don't know how he gets it done, but holy shit, if he knocks out Ian Garry, the fucking MMA world goes upside down.
That would be wild, man. That would be wild. Yeah, listen, he won against Kevin Holland, but it's Kevin Holland, right? It's like the guy who has one of the weakest mentalities in the division when it comes to actually wanting to win fights and trying to prove something. So, he's 37 years old. You've got a guy that he's taking on who matches up with him in height, who is 11 years younger than him now, who's pretty hungry to win, man, right? He's been embarrassed, like, as a man, on a man level. So we'll see what happens, man. I could see a world where this ends up being a boring-ass fight. I'm not going to lie. I could see a world where they both are just kind of dancing around, afraid to get hit by the other. I hope that's not the case. I could see a wide variety of levels of entertainment to this fight. I really could. I feel a little bit more strongly than you do about this fight. To me, I'm leaning towards Ian Garry, man. I really am. I think he's going to be able to land some leg kicks. I know that the movement of MVP is probably going to give him a little bit of pause, and sometimes we've seen Ian Garry get a little bit flustered, right, with some unorthodox types of style fighters. But I don't know. Something inside me is telling me that I just think he's going to land more shots. I don't think he gets the finish here, but I think he does get a statement win versus Michael Venom Page, who is not necessarily exposed, but we see him. We see the difference between somebody who's fought pretty high-level UFC guys and somebody who's been fighting in Bellator. Plus, I do expect there to be a speed difference. I expect Ian Garry to have a distinct speed advantage in this fight. It's like 55-45 for me, man, but I'm leaning Ian Garry by decision in this one.
So really quickly, Dino, I do want to break something down. Look, I don't disagree with you, man. I really think Ian Garry has a good shot at winning this fight. Like I said, it's 50-50. I literally coin flipped. But I do want to talk about the levels of competition really quickly. people give MVP a lot of flack about fighting cans and being at Bellator. Well, obviously he beat Kevin Holland his last time out. His fights in Bellator, man. Goichi Yamauchi, a very solid fighter. Douglas Lima, an awesome fighter. Derek Anderson's solid. You know what I'm saying? Paul Daly, an awesome win for him. So it's like, yes, is there cans? There's a ton of cans on there. There really is. But there's also some pretty good fighters. And then when you look at Ian Garry, has he really fought the best guys in the world? I mean, Jeff Neal took him in a decision. He dominated Neil Magny, but that was Neil Magny on short notice, and a Neil Magny who allowed Ian Garry to really get under his skin. So I don't know. I mean, probably Ian Garry, but again, I'm just going with Siri and what she told me. So
okay, fair. Okay, now we're on to the fight that everybody's been waiting for. Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Macy Chiasson.
Should we just like not do this here and do like a full hour breakdown of this one as a separate video?
Let's absolutely not do that. I'm gonna make this the quickest breakdown that I've given on the card. It's a bad matchup for Macy Chiasson. Why the fuck is this card on the main card? Mayra Bueno Silva is the better grappler. Macy Chiasson is okay on the ground, but I just think we're going to see a boring fight. Mayra Bueno Silva controlling on the ground and maybe getting a submission eventually. Probably getting a submission eventually. She's fought much higher levels of competition. I just hate this fight. I really do hate this fight. I don't know why the fuck it's on the main card. I see Mayra Bueno Silva either getting a weak-ass decision win or getting a submission. I'm going to go submission in like the middle to late of the second round.
All right. Really, they always throw. I feel like they always throw Macy Chiasson on some massive ass cards, bro. And it's like, who the fuck asked for that? Like,
yeah, certainly not me, brother. I'll tell you that.
I've been to multiple cards where she's on the card, and it's like, I've seen her family there, and they roll deep, like 30 deep, and they're at all the events. They're at the press conference, and they're at the weigh-ins, and they're at the fight yelling their asses off. But it's like, I've never ever fucking met someone that's like, man, Macy Chiasson, bro. Like that's, so I don't get it. But the UFC, for some reason, they like this girl. Yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? Two girls, Dino, that are very simple in their striking. I don't think there's much difference there. Macy Chiasson is a longer bodied, so I expect her to be able to get there more than Mayra Bueno Silva on the feet. But Mayra Bueno Silva has the better power on the ground. Mayra Bueno Silva should be the better fighter. But again, Chiasson's length could factor in there. Another fight that's damn near 50-50. I'm going to take Mayra Bueno Silva just because, you know, she's been in bigger fights recently. She was in a title fight earlier this year. She's had some main events, some 5-rounders. She's been linked to Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes and shit. So I just think she's a higher level fighter. I wanted to make the jokes about like this being a piss break, but it's just like I genuinely think it's going to be so sloppy that it might be fun.
Very possible.
But it's definitely going to be like the break for your nerves. You know what I mean? You're going to just come off of being Gary MVP, and then you're moving on to some serious shit, and you know, for the rest of the card. So, and you know, pour your drinks here, but watch the fight.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We've got the third to last fight of the night. This was what was supposed to be originally Jamal Hill versus
that's got to be racist. That's got to be.
Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Then it was going to be Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg. And, of course, now we have Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. Very fucking random. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I there was a meme on Instagram which was hilarious where it was the shades of the guy's skin in this fight getting lighter and lighter as we move on. So that was amazing. But anyways, Anthony Lionheart Smith, a.k.a. Anthony on Paper Smith, coming off of a huge underdog victory last time out, Dino, where everyone was counting him out against Vitor Petrino. That was a fight we watched together. It was awesome to see that for Anthony Smith. On the feet in this fight, I expect Anthony Smith to have a decent power advantage, a decent technique advantage as well. He's also going to be the longer fighter in this one. I think.
Oh,
come on. What are we doing,
dude?
Hey,
I bet Roman Dolidze got a hog though for sure.
Probably. Shit, girthy for sure. He picked up Cheyenne with it, so who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyways, I think in general, Anthony Smith's going to be better on the feet. We know Roman Dolidze has some power. Like, you look at the guy and you're like, holy shit. But I think it's more strength than power, right? He's definitely a very strong grappler, does a great job at getting the fight to the ground. He stays heavy on top. He's constantly looking for submissions. And again, I'm going to say something that's pause-ish, but it's like, dude got that grip. You know what I'm saying?
You think he's grippy?
He's for sure grippy. It'd be gripping, bro. But look, Anthony Smith is a very competent grappler, man. People forget he is a beast in the jiu-jitsu world. I think he's going to be able to survive any crazy transitions on the ground. He's not going to get subbed. I just don't see that. I think the biggest area where Anthony Smith could lose this fight is in the takedowns, right? It's in scrambling in a weird way and giving up your back to Roman Dolidze, falling in a weird way and falling in a position that you don't want to be in. But I think if it's just a clean, double leg takedown where he ends up in full guard or he's in half guard, like, he'll be fine there as long as he doesn't make like a brutal, grave mistake. Anyways, I expect Anthony Smith to win this one, Dino. Surprisingly, I'm picking Anthony Smith. I think being the actual 205 pounder here versus a short notice replacement coming up from 185 is going to benefit Anthony Smith a lot. He's going to have the size in this one. I think he has the skills to beat Roman Dolidze. I just don't think very highly of Roman Dolidze, to be honest with you. Anthony Smith plus money feels free to me. So, it's Anthony Smith. It's risky. I can't say it's free, but give me Anthony Lionheart Smith to win this fight on paper by TKO.
Yeah, I like exactly how you broke that down, man. For me, Dolidze's best, his striking has looked absolutely pathetic. I thought he was a better striker when he originally came to the UFC. I really did. Maybe it's just his look. He looks absolutely terrifying. He looks like somebody you don't want to fuck with. Anthony Smith, the quicker, snappier striker. He's just going to be the much better striker overall. It's weird enough that they have the same reach, if you didn't know, which I thought was bizarre. Anthony Smith does have 2 inches of height. He just feels like the longer fighter, though, like you said. So, Anthony Smith, good grappling. I think we see him reach into the tool bag and really, use all of his tools, all of his MMA tools. He's an absolute veteran of the sport. I don't love the guy. I think he's very delusional. He's always live to get knocked out. His chin is not the best, but sometimes it is. It's weird, right? Like, sometimes you see him take some shots and like he's surviving and he's doing his thing, and then sometimes he gets fucking knocked out by Johnny Walker and shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know, bizarre. But I agree with you, man. I do think we're gonna see Anthony Smith win this. I'm surprised that he's plus money. I'm taking him by either a pretty, not like a completely one-sided decision, but a clean decision win. But I could see a TKO too, man. I really could. I could see him TKOing Roman Dolidze. I'm not like 100% confident on this, but I'm going to pick Anthony Smith.
Yeah, I just want to say that last fight with Roman Dolidze against Nasruddin Imavov, a terrible performance from Roman Dolidze in that one. I know it was a majority decision, but I mean, Nasruddin Imavov really put it on him in that fight, and he didn't look good at all. There was the fight with Vettori before that. That fight was also another one that was iffy. It was scored for Vettori, but Roman Dolidze just has not looked like the guy that, he was trending to be. Let's say that. And then I'll throw one more thing on there. We know Sean O'Malley, the whole cuck joke with Sean O'Malley, right? And then we have Ian Garry on here. Who's the biggest cuck in the UFC? Fans will say it's Ian Garry. Then we have the guy who be cucking people on this card. So Miss Layla Machado Garry needs to look. Yeah, she might.
Damn.
Saying with a big statement win, you never know if she's jumping ship.
If Ian loses and he gets like a knockout win, holy shit.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, man. We got the co-main event of the evening. This is an unbelievable fucking fight. Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopes. This is an absolute wild fight, man. It's an absolute wild fight. I love Brian Ortega, especially the new, within himself kind of philosophical Ortega, right? If you want to call it that. And he has taken on Diego Lopes, who I've been absolutely high on, and I think you have too, since he came into the UFC. This is an unbelievable fight. This is a big step up in competition, though, man. So with Brian Ortega, we know what he's absolutely best at. It's his jiu-jitsu. He is an absolute jiu-jitsu ace. He almost tapped out Volkanovski several times in their fight. The biggest issue with Brian Ortega is that he's very hittable, man. I mean, his striking is nothing to write home about. Props to him for surviving and beating Yair Rodriguez, which was wild. Not something I expected in their last fight, especially after he got injured in their first fight. But props to him. That was super inspiring again. Diego Lopes, though, man, he's going to be much better on the feet. And Diego Lopes is much better on the ground than Yair Rodriguez is. Let's be honest. Diego Lopes is a jiu-jitsu coach himself, very well-rounded, and he continues to improve, man. Every single time that we see Diego Lopes, he looks unbelievable. He looks better and better. He is how many years younger? This guy is 94. So let me see. What's the age difference here? I'm just curious.
I got you. The age difference is 4 years.
4 years. So not too bad, man. But Diego Lopes, 3 inches taller and 3.5 inches of reach on him as well. Diego Lopes, I think he's a finisher through and through, man. Brian Ortega, again, the thing that really gives me pause is he just gets hit too much, man. He gets hit too much. And yes, he's got a lot of heart. And yes, he's able to pull it out. I just can't go with him here, man. I love Diego Lopes. This is a huge, huge fight for him. And I'm picking him, man. I think he's going to be able to hang with Ortega on the ground. I don't think he gets submitted. He's tough as hell. And I think he's got the striking advantage, man. I really do. I could see a finish in any which way in this one, to be quite honest with you. I could even see Ortega by submission. I think it's going to be a badass fight. But I'm taking Lopes by decision.
Right on. All right, Dino, look at this. I'm gonna do a breakdown here, a little bit of a breakdown. I'm gonna give some of the information that you stated, but look how I'm gonna twist it, okay? All right. So first and foremost, let's start with T-City. I thought the dude was gonna get absolutely wrecked by Yair Rodriguez. The first fight. I mean, it looked like Yair was on his way to winning that one, and he did ultimately win it, due to the injury. But last time out, man, that wasn't the case. A beautiful win for Brian Ortega in Mexico. After that win, which we watched at your house and we had a ton of drinks, it was a very fun night. We should do that again soon. But after that win, Dino, I literally said to myself, I'm picking Brian Ortega versus the field in the next fight. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm picking him. That was just my mentality at the moment. And that's just how I felt. I did not expect that next matchup to be number 14, Diego Lopes, right? We hadn't even had the UFC 300 knockout yet. So Diego Lopes wasn't even an option in my hair or in my mind. I don't have hair. But I was looking at what I said about his hair. Diego Lopes, really funky ass hair. He's a star, Diego Lopes is a fucking star through and through. He's got the goofy ass hair. He's on The Ultimate Fighter. You mentioned he corners Alexa Grasso. He's the jiu-jitsu coach. He represents 2 countries, Brazil and Mexico. He represents America as well. Like, on top of all the like fun stuff, like all of that, you look at the in-cage work and it's phenomenal, man. As you said, great jiu-jitsu. He's been showing some power lately, which is like, holy shit. You start seeing some of these skinny looking dudes at 145 throwing leather and knocking people out, and it gets scary. Case in point with the new champion, Ilia Topuria, right? Everyone's like deathly afraid of him because he got a one-shot knockout against Volk. On the feet, I expect Diego Lopes to have the slight advantage in this one. I say slight because, again, the talk around the MMA community has been all about Diego Lopes and these knockouts that he's getting. But people forget who Brian Ortega is. If you look back 5-6 years ago, 4 years ago even, Brian Ortega was the boogeyman of this division. Everyone was petrified. Everyone at one point had thoughts that Brian Ortega was the next champion at 145. Got dispatched of by Max, got his ass beat by Volkanovski as well. But as you mentioned, he had those crazy 2 submissions that he almost locked in. There's this preconceived notion, Dino, that Diego Lopes's jiu-jitsu is better than Brian Ortega's, which I've been seeing out there a little bit. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. I think T-City's just a better grappler. End of story. I think there is a pretty sizable difference there. Jiu-jitsu is top tier for Brian Ortega. Like it's top tier, upper echelon in the UFC. I love me some Diego Lopes, and the T-City shade is really fucking bananas to me. I don't know how you could take a number 3 Brian Ortega and make him an underdog in this one. Anyways, all that being said, massive step up in competition for Diego Lopes. On the other side, he got plus money on T-City, who's only ever lost to Max and Volk. I'm taking Brian Ortega in this one, Dino, and I would have picked him against Volk. I would have picked him against Max. I would have picked him against Ilia Topuria. I would have picked him against Charles fucking Oliveira at 55.
Right now?
Right today. Like I was picking him no matter who he fought in his next fight. So I'm sticking with it. I'm going Ortega by decision. I don't hate the prospects of a late TKO in this one either. I just think the step up in competition is a lot for Diego Lopes, man. But the UFC, they would love that.
You got me shook now. You got me thinking about maybe I should change my pick, but I'm not going to do it. But yeah, you got me a little bit shook. You know what, man? Yeah, I think the T-City slander is wild. How many people on Tapology are picking? Let me see.
Yeah, it's a good
73% Lopes. I knew it was going to be some wild shit. That's fucking crazy, dude. Fuck that.
Dude, it's that whole person. Like, look, again, Dino, we've talked so much about Diego Lopes. I love the guy. I want him to succeed. I would love to see him be a champion one day in this division. But it's just like, you know, we all get so enamored by the new toy and it's shiny and it's fun, you know, like, but it's just like you forget what a fucking dog Brian Ortega is and how, like what a dog he has been. I just can't take that away from him. And I can't expect a guy in his, you know, 4th or 5th UFC fight, whatever it is, a guy quickly skyrocketing up the rankings and just getting a fight against the number 3 guy in the world. I don't buy it, man.
I'm rooting for Ortega for what it's worth, man. I like Diego Lopes a lot. I just know he's going to have a lot more chances to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying T-City won't. It's not like he's like super old or anything. But I do want to see him win this. I want to see him make a nice title run now. That'd be fucking sick. All right. We're at the main event of the evening. Alex Pereira, Jiri Prochazka. We've got the goddamn like the absolute like Native American warrior basically versus the Czech samurai. You know, Bam Bam, take it away.
Yeah, brother. Let's take it away indeed. All right, Dino. First and foremost, Jiri Prochazka follows us on Instagram. Y'all should too. So just go do that. But anyways, we have a main event rematch here, Dino. Originally, this was supposed to be the card right here. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. I somehow snaked this poster. Don't ask me how, but I did it. And then I put on the Michael Chandler shirt. Poor guy. You know, he's missing out on International Fight Week in a big bag. But anyways, rematch here. And every time I think of this damn fight, Dino, I consider different things, right? The first thing I think we have to look back at is, yes, the fight was about 8 months ago. So it's pretty recent. And there's some things we can take away from it. But the situation was very different at that time. Jiri was coming off of a surgery. He didn't have really, you know, the full time to recover, right? They were saying it was the worst injury, you know, worst shoulder injury we've ever seen. Dana was saying that. We have some guys that were there at the gym that we've talked to that say it was a really bad injury. So, I don't know what to make of it, but regardless, he had surgery and he hadn't fought in a while. And Jiri is a guy that thrives on activity. So there's that. With Pereira, obviously, he was doing a great job with the leg kicks, man. He had Jiri basically, you know, he debilitated Jiri immediately with those leg kicks. Jiri was limping after the first one. He was switching stances. He was obviously struggling with them. That's the approach we saw Alexander Rakic take on with Jiri as well. So it's definitely a problem. Hope Jiri has made the changes to that because that's something that can be very damn important in this fight. Now, on the Prochazka side, I fully believe he was winning that fight until the moment that he wasn't, Dino. All 3 judges gave Jiri the first round. And in that second round, if, you know, for those of you guys that haven't rewatched this fight, Jiri had rocked Alex and was going in for a finishing sequence, ended up getting finished himself. Maybe he thought Alex was a little more hurt than he actually was, but he got clipped by that right hand, left hook combo, man. He went in for the kill and got caught. That's the end, Dino. That's the end of that fight. That's the truth. That's the full breakdown of what happened in that fight. I won't take anything else. Like, it's just what happened. The stoppage, I made a whole video about that. Got some, it was controversial, but I think it was an early stoppage. Anyways, the second thing, this is light heavyweight, man. It's 205 pounds. These guys throw with crazy fucking power. They're dangerous as hell, both of them. And not just both of them, all the guys at the top of this division, man. Jamal Hill, Alexander Rakic. I mean, the list goes, even Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker, who we've seen to be the chinniest motherfucker on earth, has stupid one-shot knockout power. I really think at 205 and at heavyweight that anyone can win because you're one mistake away from going to sleep. So that's something to consider. Kudos to John Jones for what he was able to do in this division. You feel me? I mean, being at 205 forever and just being the champion for years and not losing is bananas. Now, I want to talk about this really quickly. There's this aura that Alex Pereira brings, the whole Chama, and then Jiri was talking about the witchcraft and the voodoo. And then a lot of these people online were talking shit about Jiri, saying that, you know, they were basically mocking him for believing in that. So when he stated that, Alex Pereira on today's media day didn't deny it. He said, I believe in things. And if Jiri doesn't believe in things, then that's on him. So he basically damn near said, yes, I do that. And for people to mock what half of the world, I mean, Christians, Muslims, they all believe in curses and voodoo and witchcraft. It's a thing that over half of the world believes in. So I just don't like the slander and the mockery of Jiri Prochazka. I know we're like a lighthearted channel, but fuck that. I won't accept that because that's, you know, it's something that over half the world believes in. So anyways, Jiri has his beliefs. He is a religious person. He's Christian, as I said, in Christianity and in Islam. They believe in that, the evil eye and all that kind of shit. But anyways, it is what it is, man. If Alex Pereira is using that voodoo, I wouldn't doubt it. We know that happens in Nigeria. You saw Izzy with the broom and the dog collar. Dricus du Plessis, it's huge in South Africa. There's a bunch of fighters and a bunch of countries that use it, is my point. Regardless, Dino, voodoo to the side. We're talking pure fight here. I think Jiri Prochazka was winning that fight. I'm the biggest Jiri Prochazka fan there is. Fuck all the bullshit. He's going to win this fight. He's 30-4-1 in his MMA career. 30 wins, 29 by finish. People forget how good Jiri is because of the whole brand new thing with Alex Pereira, the new shiny toy we were talking about. So fuck that. I'm not buying it. The dude is 36 years old and has 52 pro fights in kickboxing and MMA combined, and he's been knocked out a handful of times. He's not made of iron. He's not made of stone or whatever the fuck he wants to think he's made of. He's getting knocked out. Izzy did it. Jiri's fucking doing it and new. Round 3.
Let's get it, man. Love the breakdown. I appreciate you going into all that. Yeah, listen, I love Jiri. I really, really do. Jiri is my first love before Alex for sure, but I just got to, you got to give both these guys their credit. Like I said at the beginning of this very video. Yeah, listen, man, to me, the issue with Jiri, the things that make him so fun and his warrior mentality. I was screaming when he came back and won that Rakic fight, dude. The things that make him so goddamn fun are also the things that have the potential to be his downfall, right? That warrior mentality of like, I can come back at any point. I love that shit, dude. That's what gets me hyped more than anything in this sport. But you can do that versus a guy like Rakic, who's had some knee injuries himself and things like that. And is, doesn't have the power that Alex Pereira has. So as much as I want to pick Jiri, and I absolutely think that this fight could end in any which way, man. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira. I just have to. I just think Jiri, first of all, he's never shown any semblance of defense against leg kicks. And versus Alex Pereira, those leg kicks are brutal. Both these guys can be chinned. Let's be honest. As tough and as big as they are, both these guys can be chinned. Either one of them is live for a knockout. But for me, it's, Alex, he's still Jiri he gets hit too much, man. He gets hit too much for my liking, and that's really the main reason. He's gonna take damage to his legs, and Alex Pereira doesn't need to land 50 shots, 100 shots on you, right? He needs to land 1. So, and certainly Jiri can do that too. Like you said, he had Alex Pereira a little bit wobbled at 1.2. He's on a crazy run right now. I just got to go with him. As much as I want to see Jiri win, I think Pereira gets it done. I'm going to say by submission. In the late second round.
That would be fucking wild. And I know he's been working on his jiu-jitsu with Glover Teixeira. But I do want to state one more thing. At this point, we're already fucking an hour and 5 minutes in or whatever we are. But it's like, the whole thing with Alex Pereira's power to me, man, it's just like, yes, he has really, really good power. But is it being overhyped? I really think it is. I mean, who has he knocked out cold? Really, it's just Sean Strickland, if you think about it. Michailidis got hit with a flying knee and cowered. He cowered his head and kind of got in a fetal position, and they ended that fight. Izzy was up against the fence. Sean Strickland was the clean knockout. He didn't knock out Jan Blachowicz. They robbed Jan Blachowicz of a win versus him. And then against Jiri, yes, he dropped him. Still a controversial early stoppage. And right when the ref pulled him off, Jiri got up. So he's not slumping people like that. He doesn't have that Derek Lewis power where he's sleeping people left and right all the time. I think it is overhyped. Then you look at the other side.
I don't know, dude. That left hook hits you. You're not standing.
I'm not saying right, and I'm not trying to take anything away from it. I'm just saying it's not to the level people think it is, right? Then you look at the knockouts that Prochazka's had. He fucking slumped Volkan Oezdemir, put him out absolutely cold. Dominic Reyes absolutely out cold. So it's just like, these are big ass dudes, man. They all got power. They can all be touched. Any fight at 205 in heavyweight is risky. You can get slumped by your opponent by making one bad mistake. And again, I shout out John Jones, commend him for doing it for as long as he did it at 205, man, against killers. It doesn't make sense how he was able to do that. I just got faith.
I would love to see him take these guys on at 205 now,
Yeah, but holy shit. I don't know. Regardless. It is what it is, man.
I got the hiccups now because of the Zin, so take us out, brother.
All right, so I'm going to throw this up there because that's what I believe and knew. Good luck, Jiri Prochazka. He's a friend of the channel. He follows us on IG, and you should too. T107 MMA. If you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know who you think's going to win because, I don't know, this card, it seems pretty easy until the main card, and then shit goes fucking haywire. Thank you guys so much for watching. He's DS. I got it right this time. He's DS. I'm Dino Bam Bam. We're the T107 MMA. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.